In this video, we'll be talking about the MD5 hash. And essentially, MD5, or message digest algorithm, it's a hash that produces a 128-bit hash value. Now, originally it was intended as a cryptography measure, but these days we don't use it for that because it's been broken pretty thoroughly, and everyone basically suggests you don't use it for that. But similar to a CRC and an LRC, it computes a hash value given a bunch of data, but it's a hash value that's really hard to reverse. And most people deem it as very difficult to reverse. And so there's other ways to attack this hash. It was developed at MIT in 1991. It's still widely used, but there's lots of better alternatives these days, which are really hard, cryptography speaking, to emulate. For example, secure hash algorithm 256. So essentially what we call is a one-way algorithm, very hard to reverse, but there's big lookup tables that exist. So if you search for something that's been MD5 hashed, there's places on the internet you'll find ways to reverse that, but it's basically because there's huge mappings of MD5 hashes back to data that people have mapped out, and you'll get an idea what the solution was. And so you can use something like the MD5 hash generator to create your hashes. So, as I said, it was originally designed for cryptography, but nowadays they've found major vulnerabilities in it, including major collisions where you can calculate in a couple of seconds 2 distinct messages which have the same hash value. And so normally what sometimes what you'll see is people will post a file and the MD5 hash for it separately. But the danger is you could create 2 different files that map to the same hash value. And you might think, oh, the hash matches, it's perfectly fine, but it's not. Generally though, for unintentional corruption, you won't match those 2 values. It will be really, really unlikely. And so it's okay as a checksum for unintentional corruption, but when we're meaning to perform corruption, like we're trying to slip a virus or something in somewhere, then we wouldn't be using something like the MD5 hash because these collisions can occur. So going back a few years, you probably would have seen MD5 hashes in various places around. Most notably, when you're downloading a big file like an operating system or something like that, you might see an MD5 hash against the file. And when you do the same hash at your end, it'll check that the MD5 hashes match. And if they match, you can be fairly confident it's okay. These days, the SHA 256 is far more common for this particular purpose. And so it's fallen out of favor, but it's still fairly widely used. And in a lot of cases, it's used. And in some cases, it's even used to hash passwords, which is not very secure, but it's still, in some legacy systems, is still used. So just something to be aware of. We shouldn't be using it for that sort of purpose.